If double XP weekends feel like what the game should normally be, that's not a celebration, that's a red flag. And I know that sounds dramatic, but think about it for a second. When the community consistently says, "This feels right," during double XP, what they're really saying is that base XP feels wrong. And when it comes to weapon leveling in Battlefield 6, something is absolutely off. This topic has been controversial, it's been debated, it's been brushed off, and a lot of people have strong opinions about it. But here's the problem. Most of those opinions aren't backed by actual testing. So, instead of guessing, I manually tested the system myself. Every single claim I'm about to make was verified in live matches. And what I found explains exactly why leveling your weapons feels so painfully slow, and why the system might be fundamentally flawed. Let's start simple. What actually gives you weapon XP? Because if you're going to criticize something, you better understand how it works first. After manually running multiple matches and checking post-game XP screens, here's what consistently grants weapon XP. Kills, assists, multi-kills. That's it. If you kill someone with your weapon, you get XP. If you assist on a kill with that weapon, you get XP. If you get a double or triple kill, you get a small bonus on top of that. There may be minor hidden damage XP happening in the background. It's possible that dealing damage contributes slightly even if you don't secure the kill. Suppression might count in rare cases, but the suppression system itself feels inconsistent and unreliable. But the overwhelming majority of your weapon progression comes from one thing: getting eliminations. Now, that might not sound shocking at first. Kills equal XP, makes sense. But here's where things get uncomfortable. Because what doesn't give you weapon XP is far more revealing. And this is where the system starts contradicting the entire identity of Battlefield. Capturing objectives gives you 0 weapon XP, 0. Planting bombs, nothing. Defending flags, nothing. Playing the objective, doesn't matter. Headshots, no bonus. Long shots, no bonus. Spotting enemies, no weapon XP. Spot assists, nothing. Reviving teammates, nope. Healing and resupplying, doesn't count. Destroying enemy gadgets, irrelevant. Let that sink in. In a game that constantly pushes PTFO, play the ficking objective, the weapon leveling system does not care if you do. That's backwards. It actively discourages objective play if your goal is leveling weapons. And that's not speculation, that's just how the system works. Now imagine you're someone trying to master every gun in the game. You have limited time, double XP weekend hits. You want to be efficient. Are you going to hop into Conquest and spend 25 minutes capturing flags? Or are you going to jump into the most chaotic meat grinder mode available and farm kills? The system answers that question for you. You farm kills, because nothing else matters. And that's where the design starts shaping player behavior in ways that probably weren't intended. Here's the real problem. Not everyone is dropping 40 to 50 kills in an 11-minute match. If you're a strong player running King of the Hill, sure, you can fly through levels. But what about the casual player? The battle dad in Conquest, who gets 8 kills in a 27-minute match? He might revive 15 teammates. He might capture multiple objectives. He might resupply half the team. And his weapon barely moves. Meanwhile, someone farming kills off objective levels twice as fast. You should reward skill, absolutely. But you shouldn't punish teamwork. Right now, the system does exactly that. It doesn't scale based on contribution. It scales based on kill count. And that creates a massive gap in progression speed between different playstyles. The higher your kill output, the faster your guns level. That sounds obvious, but in Battlefield, it shouldn't be that simple. Because Battlefield isn't built around pure kill farming, or at least it wasn't supposed to be. Now let's talk about something even more frustrating. Game modes. Every single game mode in Battlefield 6 gives you the same weapon XP per kill. Doesn't matter if it's King of the Hill. Doesn't matter if it's Conquest. Doesn't matter if it's Gauntlet. Doesn't matter if it's Battle Royale. A kill is a kill, but the effort required to get those kills is drastically different, depending on the mode. Let's say you have an amazing Battle Royale match. You get 8 kills. In BR, that's solid. In fact, there's literally a dog tag challenge for getting 20 kills in BR, because it's considered a huge accomplishment. But if someone hops into a small-scale mode and gets 20 kills in 10 minutes, they get the same weapon XP per kill. There's no scaling, there's no adjustment, no recognition that some modes naturally produce fewer engagements. So, if you're someone who enjoys Gauntlet or BR, congratulations, you just chose the least efficient way to level your guns. That's not healthy design. The game should not punish you for enjoying different modes. And yet, it does. And we haven't even talked about the most brutal part yet, weapon categories. Because this is where the system completely falls apart. Every weapon in the game, from assault rifles to pistols, requires roughly the same XP to max out. On paper, that sounds fair. Equal grind for equal reward. But it's not equal. An assault rifle can easily drop 40+ kills in a fast-paced mode. A pistol? Good luck. The pistols in this game are objectively weaker than primary weapons. They're secondary tools, backup options, and yet they require roughly the same kill count to reach max level. That means you're grinding 1,000+ eliminations with a weapon that's intentionally designed to be less effective. That's not challenge. That's friction. And friction kills motivation. I've personally maxed every pistol. It was painful. Not difficult in a skill-based way, just exhausting. And the only reason it was even tolerable was stacking double XP with XP boosters during small-scale modes. That's not natural progression. That's survival strategy. And if leveling a secondary weapon requires a survival strategy, something is wrong. Snipers suffer a similar issue. Sniping is inherently slower paced. You rely on positioning, timing, enemy movement patterns. You are not consistently dropping 50 kills per match unless the stars align. And yet, you need the same amount of XP to max a sniper as you do a submachine gun. Why? Different weapon classes produce different average kill outputs. The XP requirement should reflect that. Instead, it's copy-paste. One grind fits all. And that design doesn't respect how the game actually plays. At this point, the frustration isn't about difficulty. It's about logic. Why does a pistol need the same kill requirement as an AR? Why does objective play give 0 weapon progression? Why does a BR kill equal a meat grinder kill? Why does teamwork not matter? And the deeper you analyze it, the harder it is to justify. Because Battlefield isn't some indie project. This is a flagship title, backed by massive resources. Systems like this don't accidentally slip through unnoticed. Which leads to an uncomfortable question. Is the slow progression intentional? Or was this an oversight? Because when you start looking at how double XP weekends magically fix the pacing, things start looking a little suspicious. Why double XP feels normal in Battlefield 6. Part 2-3 script. Let's talk about the moment that exposed everything. Double XP weekend. Because every single time it rolls around, the same thing happens. The game suddenly feels right. Weapons level at a pace that feels satisfying. Progress feels noticeable. Grinding doesn't feel like punishment. And that's the problem. Because when a temporary multiplier makes the system feel balanced, that tells you the base system is undertuned. If double XP feels normal, then normal XP feels slow. Now, I want to be fair here. Not every slow progression system is malicious. Sometimes developers intentionally stretch progression to give players long-term goals. Sometimes it's about pacing content across seasons. Sometimes it's about retention metrics. And that's where things get interesting. Because in modern live service games, progression speed isn't just about fun. It's about engagement. The longer it takes you to level a weapon, the longer you stay logged in. The longer you stay logged in, the better the engagement numbers look. That's just reality. Now, I'm not saying someone sat in a boardroom and said, let's make leveling miserable. But I am saying this. If you lock all meaningful attachments behind level 40, and level 40 requires roughly 700 to 800 kills, and some weapons require closer to 1,200 to max out, you are deliberately designing for long-term grind. And that grind disproportionately affects certain players. Let's run a quick mental scenario. You're a casual player. You play Conquest twice a week. You average 8 to 10 kills per match. Each match lasts roughly 25 minutes. That's about 20 kills per hour. If you need 800 kills to reach level 40 on a weapon, you're looking at roughly 40 hours of gameplay to fully unlock attachments. 40 hours for one gun. Now compare that to someone playing King of the Hill, dropping 40 kills in 11 minutes. They're hitting 200+ kills per hour. They're leveling 5 times faster. That's not a skill gap issue. That's a system amplification issue. The design magnifies the gap between high output modes and low output modes. And again, Battlefield isn't supposed to be a pure kill farming arena. It's built on objective play and teamwork. Yet, the progression system only respects its elimination count. That contradiction creates tension, and tension leads to frustration. Now let's address something I haven't seen many people talk about. Attachment gating. All major attachments are locked behind weapon levels. Barrels, grips, ammo types, optics. Everything meaningful requires progression. So, when leveling feels slow, customization feels delayed. And delayed customization hurts experimentation. If I know it's going to take me 10+ hours to make a gun viable, why would I switch off my current meta weapon? The system unintentionally discourages variety. Instead of experimenting with different classes, players stick to what's already leveled. That reduces diversity in matches, which then impacts overall gameplay experience. It becomes a loop. Slow leveling, row less experimentation, row more meta reliance, row stale gameplay. That's not good for long-term health. Now let's talk about something even more subtle, the psychological effect. Progress bars are powerful. Even small increments feel rewarding. But when that bar barely moves after a full match, it creates friction. Friction kills motivation. And that's exactly why double XP weekends feel so good. Because the bar moves. Visibly, noticeably, you feel momentum. Momentum is addictive. But if momentum only exists during limited time events, that means the base pacing is off. And players feel that, even if they can't articulate it. They just know something feels slow. Now, here's where the suspicion creeps in. If double XP feels balanced, why not adjust the base XP permanently? Why rely on temporary boosts? Because there are two possible answers. 1. Oversight. 2. Intentional pacing. Oversight is possible. Live service games have complex systems. Things slip through. But here's what makes that explanation harder to accept. The system is consistent. Every weapon class uses the same XP structure. Every mode gives the same kill-based XP. Objective play universally gives nothing. That's not accidental. That's design. Which brings us back to intent. But is the grind artificially extended to increase playtime metrics? Is it meant to slow down full unlocks so players stay engaged longer? Or is it simply outdated logic carried over from older progression models? I don't have a smoking gun answer, but I do know this. When the community overwhelmingly agrees that double XP feels like the baseline, that feedback shouldn't be ignored. Because that's not a small complaint. That's a systemic pacing issue. And it gets even more complicated when you consider game mode balance again. Right now, if you care about efficient leveling, you are funneled into very specific modes. King of the Hill, Strike Point, High Density Combat. You avoid Battle Royale, Gauntlet, Objective Heavy Conquest. Why? Because the opportunity for kills is lower, which means the opportunity for progression is lower. That creates an unintended hierarchy of good and bad modes for leveling. And that hierarchy has nothing to do with fun. It's purely about XP efficiency. A progression system should never punish you for playing content the developers created. Yet here we are. Now here's the part that personally frustrates me the most. Support roles. Battlefield built its identity on teamwork. Medics revive. Manics revive. Support resupplies. Engineers destroy gadgets. Recon spots enemies. These actions win matches, but they don't level your weapons. Which means if you play your class properly, you sacrifice progression speed. That's backwards. At minimum, the system should grant weapon XP based on your last equipped weapon when performing support actions. That's not complicated, it's a design choice. And right now, that choice favors selfish play. It favors kill chasing. It favors ignoring objectives. Whether intentional or not, that's the behavioral incentive. And incentives shape player culture. At this point, you might be thinking, okay, so it's flawed. What's the solution? And that's where things get surprisingly simple. But before we jump into fixes, we need to address one last major imbalance. Because the weapon XP system doesn't just punish casual players, it disproportionately punishes certain weapon categories. And once you look at pistols and snipers under this lens, the entire system collapses. Let's talk about the two weapon categories that completely expose how flawed this system is: pistols and snipers. Because if you want proof that the XP structure wasn't carefully thought through, this is it. Start with pistols. Secondary weapons, backup tools, designed to lose most straight-up fights against primaries. Lower damage, shorter range, limited attachment options. They are intentionally weaker. Now ask yourself this: why do they require roughly the same amount of XP to max out as assault rifles? Why does a weapon designed to be situational require the same grind as your primary killing machine? That makes zero logical sense. If you want to max out a pistol, you're looking at roughly 1,000 to 100 eliminations, depending on XP pacing and bonuses. That is insane for a secondary. You are either A, forcing yourself to run around using only the pistol in close-range chaos, BF slowly leveling it over months by pulling it out at awkward moments. Neither option feels good. It doesn't feel challenging. It feels tedious. And here's the key difference. A grind can be satisfying if the weapon is powerful. A grind becomes miserable if the weapon feels underpowered. The pistols in their current state do not justify that grind. So the progression system isn't rewarding dedication. It's testing patience. That's not good design. Now let's talk about snipers. Snipers are a completely different problem, but the same root issue. Sniping is slower. You take angles. You rely on positioning. You wait for opportunities. You don't consistently drop 40 to 50 kills unless the lobby is perfectly aligned with your playstyle. Most players using snipers average significantly fewer kills than those running SMGs or ARs. Yet the XP requirement is identical. Same levels, same thresholds, same grind. So now you have a weapon class that naturally produces fewer kills per match, forced into the same kill-based progression system, That means slower leveling. Even if you're playing well, even if you're landing headshots, even if you're controlling sightlines and helping your team, the system doesn't care, because it only tracks eliminations. So again, we're back to the same design flaw. 1 XP formula for every weapon class. And that formula only works for high output primary weapons. Everything else suffers. Now step back and look at the full picture. Objective play doesn't level your gun. Support actions don't level your gun. Game mode difficulty doesn't matter. Weapon class differences don't matter. Only kills. That's the entire system. And in a game built around teamwork, class roles, and varied combat pacing, that simplicity creates imbalance. Now, here's the part that makes this even more frustrating. The fixes are not complicated. This isn't some impossible engine limitation. It's a design adjustment. Here's what would immediately improve the system. First, Doliam Bedanbidliza Paul are the TWIP bout featured. Capturing objectives should grant weapon XP based on your last equipped weapon. If I clear a flag with my rifle, I should earn XP toward that rifle. Second, support actions, revives, heals, resupplies. Gadget destruction should grant weapon XP tied to your currently equipped primary or the last weapon used. That reinforces teamwork instead of punishing it. Third, headshots and long shots should provide bonus weapon XP. Reward precision. Reward skill expression. Fourth, weapon class scaling. Pistols should not require the same XP as assault rifles. Snipers should have adjusted thresholds that reflect average kill output. This alone would fix half the frustration. And fifth, game mode scaling. If Battle Royale produces fewer kills per match, adjust XP per kill in that mode. If Gauntlet is slower pace, adjust accordingly. You shouldn't be punished for enjoying different content. That's basic progression balancing. And here's the thing, none of these changes would make the game easy. They would make it fair. There's a difference. Right now, high skill, high kill players progress dramatically faster. That's fine to an extent, but the gap shouldn't be exponential. The system shouldn't turn a casual player into someone who needs 40+ hours to fully unlock attachments on a single weapon. That discourages experimentation. It discourages variety. And ironically, it pushes people toward the meta even harder. Because if leveling takes forever, why risk switching guns? That's not healthy for gameplay diversity. Now I want to address something important. Criticism does not equal hate. If I hated this game, I wouldn't have hundreds of hours in it. I wouldn't be grinding pistols during double XP weekends just to survive the process. I wouldn't be testing suppression mechanics manually to see what works. This frustration comes from wanting the system to make sense. Because the core gameplay, it's fun. The gunplay feels good, the sandbox works. That's why the XP system feels so out of place. It doesn't align with the quality of the rest of the game. It feels like an outdated structure slapped onto a modern live service title. And when something feels outdated in a live service game, it stands out immediately. So, let's circle back to the original statement. If double XP feels like what the base game should feel like, that means the base pacing is wrong. If teamwork doesn't help progression, that means the incentives are wrong. If pistols and snipers require the same grind as ARs, that means the scaling is wrong. This isn't about wanting everything instantly unlocked. It's about wanting progression to reflect how Battlefield is actually played. Objective-based, class-driven, team-oriented. Right now, the system reflects none of that. And until it changes, players will continue funneling into kill farm modes during XP weekends, ignoring objectives, and feeling punished for experimenting. That's not healthy long-term. The Tormsation was efficient at the mount, so was launched with the backbuff-cade. So here's the formits the matches bit of beg pone. Is this something DICE adjusts? Or does it stay as a quiet grind designed to stretch engagement numbers? Because the community has already made one thing clear. Double XP doesn't feel like a bonus. It feels like balance, and that says everything. Let me know what you think should change. More objective XP? Class-based scaling? Mode-based multipliers? Or do you actually think the current system is fine? I'm genuinely curious, because if there's one thing we can probably agree on, it's that this system isn't living up to the rest of the game, and that's fixable.